Welcome, everyone. It's about 8 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're really excited to welcome you to the Project Dragonfly informational webinar. You're in the right place. Please get comfortable, and we're starting up now. So my name is Jamie Burkine-Zano, and I'm the Director of Communications and Research for Project Dragonfly. And I also want to let you know that we are recording this. So after we're done with the session, we'll get it online for anyone who may have wanted to be here but missed it. So I'm Jamie, and I wear a lot of hats, like we all do at Dragonfly, but so I do a lot of recruitment with Dragonfly, and I also am an advisor in the program, and I instruct our classes as well. And very quickly, I wanted to just let Connie and Cam introduce themselves, if they would. Connie, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thank you so much, Jamie. Good evening, everybody. What a treat to be here with you all tonight, or this afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Connie Malone, and I serve as Dragonfly's student services manager. And like Jamie, I think all of us who've been with the team for a number of years end up wearing quite a few hats. I help a lot with the applications and admissions process along with Jamie and the rest of our team, and I look forward to answering your questions. I won't be presenting this evening, but I will be personing the Q&A, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you all wish to pose there this evening. And Cam, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all also for taking time out of your day to meet with us and talk about a program that we all love so dearly for so many reasons. My name is Cameron Niffen-Frost. I am a site advisor for the Detroit Zoological Society for AIP, and I'm also a co-facilitator for our Belize trip for GFP. So I'm happy to answer any and all questions pertaining to either of them. But I know that a lot of people are interested in AIP here, and I'm super excited to talk about it. So please keep the introductions rolling and all of the questions you have to ask.
Yes. Oop. There we go. So what we're going to do this evening is talk a little bit about project. Thank you, Cam and Connie, very much. And if I could make a suggestion, there are questions that we might be able to answer during the course of our time together, and then after about a half an hour, we'll start taking. You can toss questions in there anytime, but just so that we can keep things. We might be able to answer questions as we're going through this, so you might hold on to some of those questions until a little bit later. But this is what we're going to do this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about Project Dragonfly and Miami University, the degree granting institution. We'll talk a little bit about the differences between the AIP and the GFP, and also what this program will prepare you to do, in addition to funding the program and program costs. And then we'll end with some application tips. So you may already be doing this. We're so glad you're here. We're so happy to be talking to you all. Welcome, welcome. And if you would, please say hello in the chat. If you may already be doing this, but share where you're located and the program you're interested in. And if you have questions, if you could type those into the Q&A section. I know it can be a little bit confusing, but with Connie answering lots of questions throughout the course of our evening together, it can get a little hairy in there. So if you do have a question and could put it in the Q&A section, that would be great. All right, about Miami University and Project Dragonfly. So Miami University is in Oxford, Ohio. It's in southwestern Ohio. And right now we got hit with the big Midwestern snowstorm. So the picture you're seeing there it's covered in snow right now in real life. So we're in southwestern Ohio. We were founded in 1809, and we're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission of the North Central Association of Colleges and Schools. And we, Project Dragonfly, are housed at Miami in the Department of Biology. And we've been offering our master's program since 2009. We have lots and lots of alumni and lots of current students. And the network is grand and growing. But we also started offering our Earth expeditions and zoo expeditions courses in 2004. So we've been doing this for more than 20 years now. And the Dragonfly graduate programs are primarily online with several in-person experiences for both the GFP and the AIP. And they're open to people from all disciplines and settings who have a bachelor's degree. And okay. And the mission, as I mentioned a minute ago, is about the network. It's about building an alliance of people who have firsthand knowledge of inquiry-driven, community-based learning for the benefit of ecological communities, student achievement, and global understanding. And you can see the typical classroom there on the left, but we want to go, and that's great and lovely, but we want to go beyond the typical classroom, and we want to really make education community embedded and engage humans in the human and ecological, benefiting human and ecological communities. So we want to move it from, yes, the classroom, but also including outside the classroom. So more about Project Dragonfly. So we have the two programs, the Global Field Program and the Advanced Inquiry Program, the GFP and the AIP. We have lots of acronyms, so forgive us if we jump into the acronym world. And if one of us says an acronym, please ask a question about it. But we do have lots of acronyms at Dragonfly. But we have the two programs, the GFP and the AIP, and it takes 35 credit hours to graduate with the degree. And 14 of those credit hours are 100% online, and they are shared by the GFP and the AIP. So all GFP and all AIP students take those 14 credit hours of what we call core courses, and those are all online. And where the two programs differ is in the experiential learning and face-to-face components of the two degrees. And for the GFP, it's in 3 Earth expeditions courses. So the remaining from the 14 and 21 adds up to 35, obviously. But for the GFP, it's in EE courses, Earth Expeditions, that stands for Earth Expeditions courses. And for the AIP, it's in what we call Web Plus courses. And what those are offered entirely online, taught by Miami University instructors. But the experiential learning, the heart and soul of the AIP is our AIP sites and the AIP advisors at our sites, and the zoos and botanical gardens where those experiential learning experiences take place. So each program can lead either to an MA, a Master of Arts in Biology, or an MAT, a Master of Arts in Teaching in the Biological Sciences. And the programs can be completed in, the fastest you can complete the program is 2.5 years, but you have up to 5 years to complete the program. So at certain points, life happens and family events happen, and sometimes folks want to slow down a little bit and take it a little slower. So you have up to 5 years to complete the degree. So the next slide is all of our Earth expeditions locations, our field course locations throughout the world. And I'm going to pass it over to Cam here and let Cam tell us about her global field program experience when she traveled the world with Earth expeditions. Cam, why don't you take it over for a minute?
Very happy to. It's my favorite topic. You can ask my husband. So I am actually a graduate of the GFP program. The 3 Earth expeditions I got to go on were a little special for me because I was also a COVID student during my graduate time. And the first year that we offered Earth expeditions during COVID, I got to be a little bit of a, for lack of better words, guinea pig in that situation. I worked virtually with India with the AERF there to talk about pangolin conservation and work with them on a more virtual perspective. So if you do the GFP, there is the opportunity to do a connected conservation course if you can't travel at that point, which was that opportunity that I had. Then I got to go to Belize, which is also the course that I help instruct during the summer. In Belize, we focus a lot about community-based conservation and how citizens in Belize work cohesively with higher up decision makers to make sure that actions and decisions that they're making in their communities are benefiting the environment. And then I also went to the Galapagos Islands, and that's the Islands of Change. So we focused a lot on that community impact on those islands, as well as the history of those islands, and evolution was a huge area of focus as well. I did see in the chat, if you don't want to do all the classes, there is an opportunity to just go on one of the EEs. I highly recommend it. So if you already have the degree, you can reach out and apply to go to the EEs separately from the degree. And when we talk a lot about Earth expeditions, people view this a lot as a GFP thing, but it is also an opportunity that you have when you're going through the AIP program, which we will talk about a little bit later. But even if you are looking for AIP, take a good look at this map, because there is something that will, without a doubt in my mind, apply to what you want to study in some way. And your advisors will work really hard to make sure that you are aware of what the different areas of focuses are in the different places that you can go to make sure that it applies to your master plan if that's your goal for your locations.
Cool. Thanks, Cam.
Of course.
And as Cam suggested, one of her locations was Galapagos, and the focus there is Islands of Change. And you'll notice that each one of our country locations does have that a sort of a particular focus depending on where you are and our conservation partner in that location. But these are all of the wonderful, all of our partners are just incredible, and we have just wonderful experiences at each of these locations. So you can't go wrong with any of them, that's for sure.
There's nothing better than learning about an area from the people who live there.
That's right.
Hands down.
That's right. And I heard something interesting from Cam before we started our meeting. I think Cam might be in one of these pictures. Is that accurate?
I am, yeah. So the one by the, I don't know where it is for you guys, but it's over here for me. The mangroves, the snorkeling. I'm the third person from the back.
And that's
I only knew because of my shirt.
And that's in Belize, right?
It is.
Yeah, and in Belize we snorkel through the mangroves very, very carefully because the sediment and silt can come up into the water so easily, and so they're being very, very careful going around the mangroves there, and it's really an otherworldly experience, don't you think, Cam? It's really cool.
It absolutely is. And they're experiences that you don't just get to have. And if you do get to have them without the guidance of someone who lives there and has its best interest in mind, like you get to do it without causing harm to the ecosystem. And I think that's one of the things that Earth Expeditions is so passionate about, and what makes it so incredible is you're not just an eco-tourist, you're someone there who is trying to learn without causing that harm.
Very good, very good. Yes. And here in the middle of the top is Namibia. Our partner there is Ignatius, and he's having some time with our students up on a big hill that overlooks CCF, the Cheetah Conservation Fund headquarters. This over here in the upper, to me, right, might be the upper left, but is Baja. They're out in this Sea of Cortez doing some investigations. With the horses is Mongolia. In the center bottom, I think that's the Amazon, I'm pretty sure. And then with the very, very cool little tiny primates is Brazil. Okay. Our AIP locations are throughout the country. We have San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance on the West Coast, Missouri Botanical Garden. That is our only dedicated botanical garden. Some of our zoos are also botanical gardens, but Missouri is our only dedicated botanical garden in St. Louis. We have Brookfield Zoo in Chicago and Detroit Zoo, obviously in Detroit. That's where Cam is. Woo, woo. We have Cleveland Metro Park Zoo in Ohio, along with Cincinnati Zoo, and Bronx Zoo and Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. And the AIP across the nation, these are just some examples. One of the really cool things we do with our students is our students do really incredible benefit human and ecological communities and do incredible things during the course of their experience in the master's program. And one of the things we do is on social media, we highlight a lot of what they do. So during the course of the degree. So it's not just after graduation that you do incredible, wonderful things to benefit human and ecological communities, but it's also happening during the course of your educational experience itself. And we really like to highlight our students who are doing really, really cool work. So these are just some examples of our AIP students who are doing great things, as well as our GFP students. And here are some AIP folks doing some really cool things throughout the country. Cam, are you familiar with any of these in particular? Any of the
No,
things
but they
going
look so
on?
happy, so it just makes me smile.
It does. This makes me smile too. And then one of the really cool things that we do, we just experienced in December is a lot of our graduates, I think 75 of them this year, and sometimes it's even more, come to campus for graduation. And you can see in the upper corner there, they're down on the floor about to walk across the stage and get their degrees. And about 300 people, including their family and friends and significant others and kids, all come to campus and have for this big celebration. So that's really cool. Often it's the first time they've seen the campus, which is beautiful. Okay, how will this program prepare me? There's lots of content knowledge. There's biodiversity and evolution, conservation issues, stewardship projects. But there's also the community side. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's a lot about the human side of science and engaging community in conservation methods and in inquiry-based education and science writing. And really it's about science communicating, because technical journals are great. They're really cool places to be published, but not everyone publishes in technical journals. And so it's more really about science communication, because you can do podcasts, that's projects, you can create web pages. But in general, content knowledge is definitely something that it will prepare you for. And then a publication submission. One of the requirements of the program is that not that you're actually published in a journal, but that you submit a possible article for potential publication in a journal or a magazine or some kind of vetted publication. So you have that experience, and you have the experience of peer review and then actual submission to that publication venue. And then leadership and voice. We have lots of folks who get promotions because of earning the degree. They change careers. They themselves create new programs, and in general, just reinvigorating a passion. 59% of our graduates indicate receiving a raise or a promotion primarily due to the program. But in addition to that, I would say 100% of the folks in our program invigorate a passion of some kind as part of their experience in the program. So funding your graduate program, lots of students pay as they go, or use a payment plan, which the university has, and that's 77% of our students. So a lot of our students go that route. There are tuition reimbursement programs. If you ask employers, a lot of students use that, 18%. And some students get federal financial aid. And to receive federal financial aid, you have to be enrolled in at least 5 credit hours or more per semester. But you have 2 semesters of our 3 that you have 5 credit hours in. It's kind of involved there, but just know that you have to be enrolled in 5 credit hours to receive financial aid, and 18% of our students do that. And then there are other individual kinds of grants and awards that people have, the GI Bill, AmeriCorps, Teach grants, and other scholarships and awards, and that's 6% of our students. Okay, so there's a lot on this page, but I hope I'll be able to explain the GFP costs to you. The per credit hour tuition for Earth Expeditions field courses and core courses is $455 for 2024 through spring of 2027. But in the year one, it's an example of how much a full year potentially would cost for a GFP first year student. So in the summer, fall, and spring, I explained a little bit about this a second ago, but in the summer, you're taking 5 credit hours. And in the fall, you take, again, 5 credit hours. And in the spring, you take 3 credit hours. And the yearly cost is about $7,165. And then, so the total plus airfare, because you're traveling in 3 summers, sometimes consecutive, sometimes a little bit more than that. But for the 14 core credits, it's about $63.70. For the 21 EE credits, it's $95.55 plus program fees. So for the whole degree, the 35 credits, it's approximately $19,900 plus airfare. And for the AIP, the screen is set up similarly. So the AIP Web Plus courses are $580 per credit hour, and the core courses are $455. And for year one, you would take in your first summer, Foundations of Inquiry. That's a course that all our AIP students take in their first summer, for 3 credits. And then you would take 6 credits in the fall, followed by 4 credits in the spring. And we do have a couple of courses that we can get up to that 5 credit hour limit for federal financial aid that we offer as well as possibilities. But the yearly cost is about $6,790 for the AIP. And then the total program cost for 14 credits is $63.70. And for those Web Plus 21 credit hours is $12,180. For the total cost of the degree, around $18,550. Okay, so we're to application tips. I'm going to check the time. I think we're doing okay. All right, so start early. We need to get those transcripts in, and recommendation letters take a little bit of time sometimes. So be sure to start early. We have the GFP, we only have a few more days. So hopefully if you're applying to the GFP, you've started your application at this point. January 15th is the deadline for the GFP, and EE and standalone Earth Expeditions courses is January 15th. And then February 15th is the deadline for the AIP, the Advanced Inquiry Program. So be sure and start early. Get your resume all updated and formatted. Be sure you check for typos and misspellings. It's amazing that we get typos and misspellings, but we do sometimes. So just be sure you're double checking that. Make sure you've got your references ready. Think professional, not personal. and remind them to get their recommendations in. And for AIP applicants, we also recommend that you attend an info session that is specific to, or open house that's specific to each AIP site. And you can see the AIP partner websites for details. And Kim, do you have an upcoming info session? You do. She does. Okay.
I do. I have, wait, hold on. On the
I put you on the
15th, so
spot. Sorry.
next week, actually. I think that would be next week, Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, you can go to our website and find information about info sessions for all of our AIP sites as well. And your essays. So a couple of things we recommend. First is read about the program if you haven't already, and think about how it could benefit your life. That's something that we like to read about in the essays. And the essays are short. There are only 200, there are 2 essays and they're 250 words apiece. So you have to be very pithy in your answers and in deciding what it is that you'll put into your essays. If you're early in your career or you're changing careers, relate your essays to things that you'd like to accomplish in the program and how you've considered the program's mission and ideas. Explain how you have considered the program's mission and ideas for those folks. Highlight your hobbies and your passions. This degree really is about learning about, bettering human and ecological communities and conservation action. So that's what you learn about. We don't expect you to come to the table having had all of that experience. So please write about your about your hobbies and passions, your volunteer opportunities, and how that relates to the natural world, even if you've not worked in that area. Proofread, and revise several times before you actually click that submit button. An undergraduate GPA is required at 2.75 out of a 4.0 scale. And we can petition when a GPA is below 2.75 when we have an exceptional application and if that person has 5 or more years of postgraduate life experience. So I'm going to ask Cam a question now. You can go ahead and read some of these reflections if you'd like, but I'd like for Cam now to tell us what she shares the most about Project Dragonfly when she talks about it.
Well, usually it's like a 2-hour conversation. But actually, this is the perfect slide to talk about it. So the 2 individuals who are at the end, so one of them is named Melanie Henry. She is actually one of our education specialists at the Detroit Zoo. She did her AIP program at Cleveland Metro Parks. And then the last person on the list is Kate Bell, who's a current student at the Detroit Zoo. So something that I like to talk about is the difference between GFP and AIP, because it is pretty difficult choosing which route to go on. So when I was initially introduced to this program, the Detroit Zoo did not offer an AIP program in itself. So I ended up going the GFP route. I have no regrets. It was an incredibly meaningful experience. But as I moved into my new position after I graduated, graduation opened a lot of doors for me having this degree, and I can go into that a little bit more if you would like. I was offered an opportunity to become one of the facilitators here at our Detroit Zoo campus at our site. And I cannot express the amount of jealousy I felt with seeing how our students get to interact with each other. Because for GFP, you have these beautiful out of country experiences that have been incredibly pivotal in so many aspects of my life. But I did not get to have that cohort that was so close and got to work with each other so deeply within our community that I believe is the perfect example as to try to figure out which path you want to go on. Like, do you want to have that self-reflective experience? Like, do you want to come out of it really leading your own way through the program? Or would you like to have that more community-based approach to working in your community for all of your in-persons instead of out in a different country? Do you want to have like a community, a cohort that you can work so closely with at your location? What your goals are at the end of the program, if you know what that is now, mine completely changed. If you know what your goals are to come out of it, that will help narrow down what path you want to go towards. And I can't stress enough, it is okay if your goals change. So if you start in this program, I applied to this program with what I view as a beautiful essay about primate conservation and like how important it was to me, and I was going to save all the primates. And I left passionate about oceanic aquaculture and restorative aquaculture practices. And there's no two more different paths that I feel like you could have ended up on between primates and oceanic plants. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting. You never know what you're going to learn, and you have to be willing to keep on the path with whatever that passion strikes.
That's great, Cam. And Cam and I think both of us have at various times mentioned something called the master plan. And what the master plan is it's a sort of a roadmap that every individual person in our program creates for him or her or their self. And that roadmap can change. Some people, like Cam, knew she wanted primates. She wanted primate behavior and conservation when she began, and it transformed into something completely different by the end of the program. And some people come in knowing they want primate behavior and conservation, and that's what they continue to focus on throughout their program. But everybody has the opportunity and the flexibility to come to the table with the theme that they want to make their master plan. And that's a really cool thing because you get to identify it yourself and really follow your own passions and interests as part of the program. Oh, we've got some more reflections, things you share the most. Working full-time is demanding, so I really appreciate the flexibility of the degree. Though the experience was challenging, I was always able to balance school with being a mom. So lots of different reflections there. Okay, so I think we're only 2 minutes over our 30-minute allotted time, but please contact us. If we're going to hang on here for another half an hour if we have that many questions and answer more questions. But if you do come to the end of the discussion and you come up with more questions, please contact us. You can email us at dragonfly@miamioh.edu. And then the websites, there's lots and lots of information on the websites. But sometimes you can get mired down in reading a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's just easier to talk to a person or email us. So we're ready and willing to do that. And so I guess I'll just open up the floor here and engage Connie back in our discussion and see if there's anything from the chat that either Cam or I or you would like to answer.
Connie, would you be okay with me answering the scheduling question that keeps
Hi.
popping up?
Sure, we've got questions both in the chat and in the Q&A, so I'm
Okay.
doing my best. But yes,
Okay.
for everybody who has posted a question, if we miss it or don't get to it, please, like Jamie said, feel free to write us directly after this evening's information session or post it again in the chat or Q&A, and we will do our best to get to you. Absolutely. Yeah. So here's a good one. So Cam, let's send this to you. So Zachary Baker is asking, because this is a great question. A lot of applicants aren't totally clear on what the expected time commitment is for the experiential learning portion of an AIP Web Plus class. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for example, a 3 credit hour course?
Yes, I'm very happy to do so. So each site is a little different in the dates that they pick. So my dates might not be the same as Chicago or wherever you guys are at. However, we do pick 3 or 4 typically in-person dates to do our in-person sessions. Some zoos prefer to do them in 2 weekends back to back, a Saturday, Sunday. Some zoos prefer to do them one Saturday or Sunday or weekend day a month throughout the semester. An example of that is one of our courses that we teach, our Foundations of Inquiry class. We do 2 back-to-back weekends. Not back-to-back weekends, back-to-back days on 2 weekends. So we still get those 4, but it's Saturday, Sunday, a few weeks later, Saturday, Sunday, whereas the other ones we do those Saturdays just in a row. And those are provided to you before that semester starts. So that way you're able to accommodate your schedule and determine if it's something that you can accommodate in your schedule for that semester. The classes typically will run between 5 and 7 hours each. I know my students, they show up roughly around 9:30. We will clear out around 4-ish. And then they have time to stay behind and ask additional questions. When it comes to those additional time commitments, so if you choose to do an internship or if you are working on a project with a community partner or with your zoological or botanical garden, you will have additional time commitments, but that is something that's determined between you and your advisor based on the number of hours you're hoping to commit to that project.
Perfect. Thank you, Cam. Jamie, I'll pitch this one to you. So forgive me, we're going to answer some live, y'all, because I think these are relevant to lots of folks watching. So Laura Ship has asked, what careers do the masters in biology often lead to as opposed to the Master of Arts in teaching in the biological sciences? Or do you see any difference in the career path for the 2 different degrees?
Sure. So with the Master of Arts in Teaching in the Biological Sciences, it does not confer licensure for teaching. So just need to make sure that's clear. So most of the folks who pursue a Master of Arts in Biology focus on the life sciences, focus on the biology side of things. And for both degrees, we focus on biology and the life sciences, but their projects might be going out into the community and starting a new recycling program potentially, or studying insects or studying primates at the zoo. And a Master of Arts in Teaching, someone getting a Master of Arts in Teaching will write lesson plans, will engage, usually they're already classroom teachers or formal teachers in some way, shape, or fashion with in education. And so they're really the difference. So and you can start the degree in an MA and decide you want to transfer into the MAT, or vice versa. If you start in the MAT and decide, oh, you know what, the MA really is feeling like a better fit for me, I'm going to go MA, and you can transfer over. So so the MAT is more for practicing classroom teachers for the most part, and the MA is for folks who just want to explore the biological and life sciences.
Thank you, Jamie. That is so good. So Daniela, sorry, I'm gonna be typing all night long. I can see. So Daniela asks, what is the class size for both the online courses and I think internship sites, and I think probably thinking about like the AIP sites for that?
Sure. So about 20 is sometimes 25, but that would be a rather large class size. So they're really reasonably sized classes. Every once in a while, I get a class size around 12 to 15. And while that's really fun because we get to concentrate and engage with each other a lot, we try to get around 20. Cam, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, for the AIP sites, it's also really dependent on what the zoo or botanical garden has the capacity for. The Detroit Zoo is still building up this is only going to be our third cohort, which is very exciting. So we don't have as many as necessarily like San Diego would, who is like pretty well solidified and has some deep roots in the community with this program. Occasionally we will run cohorts at the same time for classes that we teach. So the most that we've had in a classroom, I believe, was 28, but that was running with two different cohorts in there because some of the students had taken Earth expeditions and did not take this past semesters of classes. So I would say that on average, we're around 20 to 22 in a classroom.
Thank you. Okay, so Megan asks, do people get turned away due to large numbers of applicants? My career plans 4 months in advance, and I'm afraid to schedule my events and get excited planning for this program and possibly not be accepted. So, do you want to talk about, Jamie, sort of our acceptance rates? That was another question I just typed an answer to, and the capacity of the program to accept numbers of students.
Sure. So with the GFP, we do often get more applications than we have spots available. But if you have great essays, good recommenders, a 2.75 GPA undergrad, at least a 2.75 GPA undergrad, you have a really good chance of being accepted into the GFP. For the AIP, a lot of it is site dependent. We have some of our smaller sites have a number of spots available, but if you're in San Diego, for example, it's very, very competitive. They get more than usually double the number of applications than we have space available. Often people apply and then reapply in a later year and will be accepted in a later year if they come back in a second or third time. So it's a little bit site dependent with the AIP. And with the GFP, if you've got a really solid application, you've got a really good shot at being accepted.
Thank you, Jamie. So John writes, if I'm in Pennsylvania and choose the Bronx Zoo for the AIP, would it be a lot of back and forth traveling, assuming the course is spread out sporadically, or would I be able to crash in the area for 2 weeks to complete on-site coursework?
The way that the in-person works is typically when they bring in a facilitator, or the facilitator who's the advisor at that location is only there to teach on those specific in-person dates that are provided in advance to the semester. I know I've run into a few circumstances where people wouldn't be able to make it to like 1 or 2 maybe through the semester, and we were able to make some adjustments for that specific individual, but I don't think that that's something that would be able to be brought to fruition for the entirety of the program. However, I have seen, especially like I've seen at the Detroit Zoo, like some people who live a little bit further away will crash with some of the people that they're in the class with, which might not be something you're super comfortable with your first semester, and I understand that. But typically you have to go to those designated in-person opportunities to learn with the rest of your cohort.
Yeah, and if I could just add, generally what we recommend is that you're near an AIP site to be in the AIP program. But that said, we do have folks who fly from Pennsylvania to Cincinnati and take Cincinnati Web Plus classes. And we have folks in Georgia who go down and take classes, Web Plus classes at Jacksonville Zoo. I actually know of a student who was in the AIP in Seattle and moved to Alaska and took a class in Seattle. Seattle happens to be one of the AIP sites that is sunsetting right now, so we're not accepting applications there. but from Alaska to Seattle, she would fly down for the in-person days. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, Melanie, who was listed earlier as one of the alumni that provided a quote, went from Metropolitan Detroit to, I believe, Cleveland Metro Park Zoo for hers as well.
Definitely
You
possible.
might have somebody else who's in your area that is attending as well, so maybe you guys can carpool and jam out.
So Deirdre asks, and I do kind of love this question, what is the age range of the students?
That's a great question. It is the whole spectrum. Just like we take everyone from any background with a bachelor's degree. Some people come to us with science backgrounds, but many people come to us with not science backgrounds. Just a very strong interest in conservation action. So, like similar to that, we have graduates who just graduated from undergrad and have come straight in from having completed their undergraduate degree to people in their 70s and I'm not sure 80s, but we have folks who from all ages, and there's no limit for sure.
Mhm. So in my first cohort, we absolutely love it because our youngest person coming in, our least tenured person coming in, was 24 at the time, and our most tenured person was 74 at the time. So there was that 50-year age range, but they ended up working so well together because they were able to cover so many different like societal norms that exist within each of those communities. It was really cool.
Thank you. So Laura asks, can you give an idea of what sort of careers the GFP can lead to? I know a lot of people who are established in the zoo world who've done this program, but oh, but are there many career paths outside of zoos that this could qualify us for?
Well, a lot of the folks who come into the program come out of the program with new eyes, like, right, it's a new lens. And a lot of folks stay in their current positions uh, and expand their horizons, so to speak, and look at their current jobs differently. And then we do have folks who work in, I know of a teacher who wanted to change her situation, and a high school biology teacher, and she ended up being director of an aquarium in the American Southeast. Um, and this program allowed her to do that because she was able to focus on she was able to hone in and focus on her passion. And so we have folks in NGOs, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits. And there's a an alumni survey on our website. If you go to AIP or gfp.miamioh.edu and scroll down a little bit, you should be able to find an alumni survey, and there's lots and lots of testimonials and information about changing careers. That would be a great resource.
I know quite a few people who went to work for like their forest system in their states as well. And a few people who pivoted to like parks and recreation in their local communities. It's pretty cool. Krista developed her own organization. So it's just
Yeah,
all
we
important.
had a woman start a zoo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And lots of people create. I know of another person who decided that there needed to be an environmental educator in her county and went to the county board, the county commissioners, and presented the idea. And they were like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And they created a job for her because of her initiative.
Thank you both. Um, this is another good question. So Jenna asks, what are some of the pros and cons students notice most about online asynchronous courses?
Hmm. Well, Cam speak to this firsthand, but one of the things we recommend is that you put aside time just like you would for a typical university class, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 o'clock. You're going to be, or 8 o'clock, whenever you can fit it into your schedule. You're going to be working on your master's. So it can get away from you pretty easily, and keeping up can present some challenges, especially for folks who haven't had online learning experiences. Cam, would you like to add some personal?
I'm laughing because this was me, my first semester, asynchronous. I had never had a class that I didn't have as much structure as I was used to. I will say, in addition to what you said, I've seen a lot more success in students' first semesters when they're a member of like the AIP realm, because they still have group chats to hold each other accountable. You're still in the same classes that are the asynchronous classes. Whereas in the GFP, it is a lot more of like reaching out for additional support to instructors, which we're happy to provide. We're always happy to provide support. But it is finding methods and support systems within your own personal community to hold you accountable for those expectations for deadlines. Pros is you have typically a lot more time to know what is expected coming next, and you get to see a lot of your assignments ahead of time. So as you're working on those fundamental projects, like earlier on in the semester, you can already look ahead to what those final projects are and start working towards that while you're doing your other assignments. Once I got over my inability to keep a schedule, I found that to be an incredibly beneficial opportunity when we are talking about those asynchronous classes, because at the end of the course, you don't have to sit down and try to cram an entire assignment out in 24 hours because you weren't thinking about it. You were building up to it using your other resource materials the entire time.
Thanks.
Also, this might be like a cliche thing to say, but there are a lot of really good videos on YouTube that help break down some of those barriers and roadblocks that people might have in being able to schedule out your time effectively. Listen to some of the less preachy ones, and they can actually be really, really helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. Owen asks, does the MA in biology prepare us for research if we were to later want a doctorate? Do we get research experience during the course of the degree?
So, yes, you do. But again, this degree is a Master of Arts, not a Master of Science. So if you do want to go the sort of hardcore science route, a Master in Science might be your a better choice for you. But we have plenty of folks who have earned our Masters of Arts and gone on to complete a PhD and research. So if research is something that you want to focus on, as we were talking about the master plan and the theme of your master plan, you could make research. So you could certainly concentrate your efforts on research and go on to earn a PhD for sure. Kim, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I know this is something that's commonly said about a lot of things, but this program, even more so than anything else I've experienced, is a very much so you get out of it what you put into a program, and it's designed to be that way. So if your end goal is to go on to be having a PhD track, then you're able to manipulate your methodologies for your master plan and for your research initiatives to get that experience that you're hoping for going into your PhD. For example, I got my Master's of Arts in Biology. I did not get the Master's of Arts in Teaching, because I want to eventually go on that PhD track. And it allowed me to have more opportunities to focus solely on those hard science, data collection, and interpretation methods that I was lacking from my bachelor's degree, to be able to apply to my PhD. But as Jamie said before, there are many people who have gone through this program that end up getting their PhD further down the road. Sometimes they say that there are things that they'd had to work on between their master's and their PhD, but I think that that's relevant for every degree progress. You're not going to learn every single thing that you're going to need to know for your PhD, because at that point there would be no point for a PhD. You would already know all of those things. So there's always that room for growth in between.
Thank you. Paige asks, and Kim, this might be one for you. What will we be doing at the AIP sites? Any specific goals? So maybe if you could talk a little bit about what those experiential learning days at the zoo or projecting to Missouri Botanical Garden, what do they look like? What kinds of activities do they include?
That's a great question. And like many of my other answers, starts with it really depends on the site. But something that I have seen that is relevant across all of the sites is you get to work with industry leaders. So not only do the people at the DZS have to listen to me, they also have the opportunity to talk with life sciences staff. So people who run our animal welfare and research departments, people who run our conservation departments. As leaders in the industry, you get to have that hands-on, face-to-face work with them and the incredible work they're doing both in the community and globally. Additionally, the draw in using not using, that's a poor word, working with community resources and community organizations that you get to have for AIP is invaluable. So we will bring in individuals who work with tree planting organizations in Detroit, or environmental justice organizations, or organizations that run river cleanups, or policy-based organizations to come in and teach about their individual organization. So that way you are able to make some really informed decisions on how you want to move the progress of your projects forward. So even if you were like, hey, I want to do an internship, I don't think I want to work at a zoo, I am really happy that I met someone who works with the what's one of the organizations we work with? The Michigan DNR. Can you set us up with that? We have those connections because all conservation organizations, conservation is so interdepartmental, all conservation organizations lean on each other so much that you get to have those hands-on experiences, meet those people, and then continue to work with them moving forward. So we'll either be in the classroom here, sometimes we'll go out into the zoo and do some behind the scenes opportunities. Sometimes you get to feed a giraffe, sometimes you are out on Belle Isle, which is one of our state parks, doing mud puppy surveying. So you are in like bibs and like pulling mud puppies and taking measurements and getting that hands-on field experience that I know a lot of people are really passionate about.
Thank you, Cam. Deirdre asked a question I'm gonna go ahead and answer live. She wrote, I have had some problems filling out the online application. Should I contact graduate admissions? And the answer to that question probably is yes. While Spencer Pate or I or Jamie or any member of the Dragonfly team could possibly work through that, graduate admissions supports Slate, the system that the application is based within. And if there are technical issues, they are the ones who would have to resolve those. They're a terrific team. They're very quickly responsive and can be reached at applygrad, all one word, no punctuation, at miamioh.edu. So if you are experiencing any difficulties with that site, please do reach out to them. Okay, so Christian writes, I live in Staten Island and I'm applying to the GFP as my first choice. If accepted into the GFP, I was wondering if there are opportunities to connect with AIP sites, even if just for networking purposes, especially since the Bronx Zoo is in such close proximity.
There are certainly opportunities to connect with an AIP site, especially in your case, like you're very close. We've had students do projects, with an AIP, GFP students do projects with an AIP site, and we can certainly make those connections for you. Cam, how would Detroit feel about working with a GFP student, or And it may differ, again, as Cam said, it may differ by site.
Yeah, I currently work with a few GFP students who have reached out to us, and I'm really happy to continue to work with them. I think the only slippery slope is to make sure that the advisor that you're leaning on is still the advisor that is through GFP, because the advisors at the AIP sites have so many students that we are directly
Yeah.
advising. But connections are connections. We're always about that. I have a lot of students who are really passionate about things that maybe a few of the GFP people that I work with are not from the state, but they're interested in large cities and the role that conservation plays in them. And so I'll connect them with my students and they're able to do projects together. And that is so cool. So
Yeah.
we typically are very open. Sometimes during the thick of the semester might not be the best time to reach out. But to plant those seeds before the semester start, I definitely would recommend that.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and one of the cool things, once you become a student in Dragonfly, you have access to a map that is it has all of our alumni on it. It has all of our, well, you have to opt into it. We don't automatically put you on the map unless without your permission or anything. But you have access to a map, and you can find folks in your area, GFP and AIP folks, who are like-minded and have done the program or are in the program. We have, and Connie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2,400 alumni. Is that right? Or is it more than that now?
I'm sorry, I was reading your question, Jamie. Can
Oh,
you
sorry.
please? I'm sorry, that's okay.
Is our number 2,400 of alumni?
Yes.
Yes. So we have 2,400 alumni. And we have at any given time between 650 and 850 about part-time students in the program. So that's a lot of people. And our mission is really about that alliance, that networking. So yeah, there's a lot of folks that you have an opportunity to connect with for sure.
So this may be the last one. So Owen, you
Yeah.
the last question. Owen writes, I saw that if we attend this seminar, we do not have to pay the application fee. How do we confirm that we attended? And Owen, the really awesome super thing is you don't need to. Through the magic of technology, and provided, I will say the caveat is that your graduate school application email address and the email address you use to register for this information session have to be the same. If they're not the same, you can still get the waiver. We just have to, let the folks there know. But that will happen automatically and likely within a day or two of this session. That will get processed, and you should see the prompt to pay the application fee sort of disappear for you. If you don't, then reach out to us at any of these email addresses here, and we'll follow up with grad admissions for you.
And if you haven't yet started your application, I believe that tomorrow or within the next day or two, you'll receive an email with a code in it. But if you've started your application, it happens magically. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure. We're really, all three of us, I think I can speak for all three of us when I say we're really looking forward to reviewing your applications, and it's been really fun. This evening has been a great experience for us. We're really happy you've joined us, and thanks so much, and have a great rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Thank you everyone for taking the time. And good night.
Bye-bye.